It's time for another quick take, ladies and gentlemen. Although these videos tend to be rather long, it's your 2017 Wimbledon preview and predictions. Boy, we all love Wimbledon. I know I do. Something about the tradition, the prestige of this tournament. It brings out the very best in these phenomenal athletes. It's also the most aesthetically pleasing of all the majors. So I can't wait. Wimbledon starts on Monday, and let's get to it. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to go work my way down the bracket, which will start us off with the number 1 seed, Andy Murray, and his quarter. So this quarter is, I'd say, the most wide open quarter, and here's why. Let's start with Murray. It's hard to have any confidence in Andy Murray right now. I spoke to Steve Flink after the French Open, and I asked him, did Andy Murray alleviate all the concerns that had compiled through his struggles with a semifinal French Open berth? And his answer to that, and I agreed with him, is, well, it's not time to panic yet, but let's see what he does at the Queen's Club. If he loses early, now there's definitely some reason for concern. If I'm an Andy Murray fan, I'm extremely concerned right now. There is not much reason, based on simply his results in 2017, there's not much reason to be confident in Andy Murray. I referred to the Queen's Club, his only warm-up tournament. He lost in round 1 to Australian Jordan Thompson. You could try to ignore a result like that, but it's just happened far too often in 2017, Andy Murray losing early. Also in this quarter is young Australian Nick Kyrgios, someone who I really wanted to pick to come out of this quarter. With Andy Murray struggling and Stan Wawrinka the next best thing on his weakest surface, I wanted to pick Nick Kyrgios, especially based on what I've seen from him in the past at Wimbledon. However, he's done some interviews before this week, and he's basically saying that his hip is bothering him. He took a fall at the Queen's Club, had to retire in the first round, so he did not complete his first round of his warm-up tournament, had to retire, and he's currently saying that he's about 65% healthy right now. So, unfortunately, I just can't pick him. I do think that he'll get through the early rounds. There's always a chance that he's upset in the early rounds with an injury and with his erratic nature. But I feel like it's been a pretty mature year by Nick Kyrgios, and I was very excited to watch what he can do at Wimbledon. It's a far better surface. The grass courts are way better for Kyrgios' aggressive style than the clay courts, and I do think he's shown maturity, so I was very excited, but unfortunately he's injured, so I do have him losing to Andy Murray in the 4th round. As a result, Stan Wawrinka, that's who I have coming out of this quarter. Now, I just want to point something out. Wawrinka is going for his career Grand Slam. He's also going for the world number 1. If he wins Wimbledon, he would be the world number 1. I don't think he has a chance at that. In fact, the reason I have him in the semis is more a result of his draw than anything else. I don't love Wawrinka on the grass. I think there's a reason that's the only major he's yet to win. One reason is his court position. It's hard to play further back on the grass courts because a lot of players are really able to penetrate through that fast grass court, and it puts him really on the wrong foot. Where Stan likes to be in control of rallies, where he likes to dictate on the grass, it's harder to do that with, playing further and further behind the baseline, as Stan likes to do. The ball doesn't bounce as high. I don't think Stan loves that. But the biggest problem for Stan on the grass is undoubtedly his return. His best surface in terms of his return is the clay court. Because it's slow, he can really take that signature, those big cuts at those returns. On grass, the ball comes back a lot further, and oftentimes he's so uncomfortable returning on grass that he actually relies on chipping his return. That is never a good thing, and that is the main reason why I feel Stan sort of struggles on grass. It's just because he's not comfortable blocking, these big serves back in an effective manner. What Wawrinka needs to do, he's got to gimme in the first round. Then I have him facing Tommy Haas in the second. He could meet Kevin Anderson, very dangerous, in the third round. Sanga or Query could loom in the fourth. Also, somewhat dangerous. I think that's not a bad fourth round draw for Wawrinka, though. And then Murray or Kyrgios most likely in the quarters. But once again, in this draw, you have Stan Wawrinka on his worst surface, a reeling Andy Murray, and an unhealthy Nick Kyrgios. I don't know what's going to happen in this quarter. This is by far the most wide open quarter. So that'll be interesting. Moving down in the draw, it's Nadal's quarter. Nadal, the number 4 seed, headed into Wimbledon. I do have Rafa Nadal exiting his quarter safely, making the semifinals at Wimbledon. But one thing I have been concerned about, actually there are multiple things, there's a lot of things to be concerned about whenever you're talking about Nadal at Wimbledon, especially considering he hasn't played in Wimbledon in 2 years. His last Wimbledon was 2014, and prior to 2014, even in 2014, he has had some questionable results. Confidence is a big thing with Nadal. And in the lead up to this tournament, in these interviews, he hasn't appeared very confident. He has constantly admitted that the grass courts are difficult for him, that Wimbledon is difficult for him. And quite frankly, Nadal is so honest, almost to a fault. That's really not what I want to hear from him. I want to hear a little bit more confidence coming from Nadal. I know he's so modest. I know he's so honest, but I am concerned, especially early on, about Nadal being confident on the court. I'm going to turn a blind eye to those quotes, though. I am going to say that Nadal is in prime position to have a really, really great Wimbledon. Has not played a warm-up tournament, but based on what I've seen from Nadal on the clay courts, I really think that he can play excellent grass court tennis. So, first of all, at the French Open, a tournament that he was so dominant in, that was probably the most aggressive clay court tennis we've ever seen Rafa Nadal play. And that's such a great segue, moving on to the grass courts where aggressive play is often rewarded. So he doesn't have to make too big of an adjustment there. He was playing such wonderful, aggressive tennis. If he can just continue that on the grass, if he was, playing more of a retrieval game, I'd have more concerns about this transition to the grass courts. But because he was playing so aggressively, I love that for his prospects on the grass. Another key was his backhand. He hit his backhand better than we've seen in Paris just a couple weeks ago. And the reason that's so important is because basically the faster courts at Wimbledon, they don't allow Nadal to run around his backhand as much as he can on the clay. On the grass, Nadal will hit way more backhands than he will on clay. With clay, the ball, takes a slower bounce, and he's able to use his footwork to hit forehands instead of backhands. But Wimbledon, not as much time to utilize the footwork. You are forced to hit a lot more backhands if you're Rafa Nadal. His backhand was so good in Paris that I feel great about that. It was so good, and it enabled him to play brilliant, aggressive tennis. The number one thing you got to watch out for with Nadal, I mentioned his shaky results at Wimbledon. We saw him lose to Lucas Rosol. We saw him lose to Steve Darcy. These were both, very early in the tournament. In 2014, we saw him drop sets to Mikhail Kukushkin, Lucas Rosol again, Martin Klizan before losing to Nick Kyrgios, a very, very young Nick Kyrgios at that. So we've seen questionable results from Nadal. I'd say it's mostly because early in the tournament, it's very dangerous when Nadal faces big servers, very aggressive players that don't give him much rhythm. When he doesn't have the confidence, especially on the return, he can be upset early at Wimbledon. We've seen it multiple times, quite frankly. So another thing that gives me comfort with Nadal is I do think that his draw is pretty good. I don't think he'll be too threatened. He's got Millman in the first round, winner of Donald Young and Dennis Istomin in the second round. And then in the third round, he's got an interesting draw with the young Russian Kachanov, who's a big server and could be a really good grass court player, but still young. And once he gets through the first two matches, I feel Nadal, by that time, he will have gained enough comfort and confidence. But the return is interesting because usually his coaches force him to return much closer to the baseline than he does in the French. And oftentimes, I just feel Nadal is extremely uncomfortable up there, but they don't let him move back. They say, no, this is Wimbledon, and this was a big Uncle Tony thing. And we'll see if Nadal, because Uncle Tony has a little bit less power in this camp, we'll see where he returns from positionally, because oftentimes he's right on top of the baseline and he's not comfortable up there. And I feel that that's contributed to, getting upset by the likes of the big serving Lucas Rosol. So hopefully I'd like to see him return from a position he's more comfortable in, return from further back behind the baseline, as long as he moves up as the point progresses, as long as he improves his court position, which he did really, really well at the French. So these are some things to watch. After his third round draw with Kachanov, obviously this is all theoretical if the seeds hold up. Then he would draw Gilles Muller or Ivo Karlovic. Huge servers, by the way. Once again, huge servers. So it'll be very interesting. This will all come down to the return, but I'm confident in Nadal. Then in the quarterfinals, he would draw Marin Cilic or Kei Nishikori, most likely. That would probably be Cilic. I am picking Cilic to make those quarterfinals. And he's pretty dangerous on the grass. But once again, once Nadal gets his rhythm, I have confidence in Nadal. I think he gets through his quarter. Lots of interesting things to watch, though, with Rafa Nadal. Let's move on to Roger Federer. So excited to watch him on the court again in the 5-set format. I've missed him. We've all missed him while he's gone. We did get to see him play in Germany. That was his grass court warm-up. He was upset by Tommy Haas in his where was it? Was it Stuttgart? I believe it was Stuttgart. I think so. Anyway, so Federer's won 6 of the 8 tournaments he's played in 2017. It's been an unbelievably dominant year by Roger. But after losing to Tommy Haas, after a long layoff, there was a small sense of uncertainty where, well, we haven't seen the guy play in 2 months. He just got upset in the first round. I don't know. Is Roger Federer a lock to win, to win Wimbledon? Well, if you had your qualms, if you had your doubts, I think that he erased all those doubts with his 6-1, 6-3 win in Halle, Germany over Alexander Zverev, winning that title in commanding fashion, and he looked so good. Federer simply has more tools to win on grass than anyone else on tour. The only people who you could kind of compare Federer's repertoire to offensively is maybe a Grigor Dimitrov and a Nick Kyrgios, but their games just aren't as polished as Federer's. And considering what he did before he took that clay court season off, winning the Australian Open, winning Indian Wells, winning Miami, Roger Federer is the odds-on favorite to win Wimbledon, and rightly so. He's so comfortable on the grass. He's got the best weapons. Let's take a look at what he'll have to do. First round matchup, pretty interesting. Alexander Dolgopolov, very erratic player, a tough player to play against. So that should be, Federer excels in those kind of matchups, though. Attack on attack. It's interesting. I feel like a better chance to upset Roger Federer is when people play a match like Tommy Robredo did at the U.S. Open, where you make ball after ball after ball and hope Federer makes a lot of errors. If you're an aggressive player against Federer and you're kind of playing, Federer, playing Federer's strengths with your strengths similarly, offensively like Dolgopolov will. That was kind of a jumble of words. But basically, I don't think trying to beat Federer at his own game is ever really going to work. And I'd say that's what these, an aggressive player like Dolgopolov or Grigor Dimitrov will try to do. So that's an interesting first round. Second round's kind of a gimme. Third round, Servali, Misha Zverev. Same thing. You're not going to beat Federer at his own game. Fourth round, he draws Grigor Dimitrov. Once again, Federer owns Dimitrov because Dimitrov, everything Dimitrov does, Federer can just do better. Then finally in the quarters, it'll probably be Milos Raonic or Alexander Zverev. I think it's going to be Raonic. Raonic upset Federer last time he played Wimbledon, which was 2015. Of course, he missed Wimbledon last year. And so Raonic beat him. Federer's going to avenge that loss. He's going to do so in commanding fashion. He's going to make a statement, and I won't spoil yet if I believe he will ultimately win Wimbledon. But he should get out of his quarter. Great draw for Roger Federer. Now at the bottom of the draw, our last quarter is the number 2 seed, Novak Djokovic. So I have picked against Djokovic ever since the Australian Open. I've been picking Djokovic to lose early in almost every tournament, and he continues to prove me right. But finally, Wimbledon arrives. I will not pick Novak Djokovic to lose early in this tournament. I think that everyone's come around to the idea that this has been, Djokovic has had some mental hurdles. He's had problems with confidence, motivation, focus. But I think that Wimbledon, and this is more of a gut feeling, it's a perfect setting to block out everything else around you and re-fall in love with the game of tennis. I really think that Djokovic will achieve the kind of focus and the kind of competitiveness that we saw from him when he was at his best. I think Wimbledon is just the perfect place to do that. He will have Andre Agassi with him this time the whole tournament. I just expect Djokovic to mentally settle down. He loves Wimbledon. This is his favorite tournament, and I think that the juices will be flowing for Novak Djokovic once again. It's just kind of a feeling that I have, and I think the confidence will be riding high. I love that he played Eastbourne the week before Wimbledon. He did win Eastbourne last week, so he does have the confidence. He understands that he normally wouldn't play that tournament, but he's so fragile mentally that he needs to hoist a trophy. He needs these wins, and he was basically rewarded for his decision to play Eastbourne. So I'm feeling really good about Novak. I am. The most impressed I've ever been, or among them at least, is the way Novak Djokovic moves on grass. It is so impressive the way he's able to maintain his balance and slide on grass as if it's a clay court. The way he's able to defend on grass, it is so unparalleled. I mean, Murray's really good defending on grass too, but what Novak Djokovic does is just out of this world, off the charts. So I'm looking forward to seeing that again. Let's look at his draw. He's got a gimme in the first round, a gimme in the second round, but he draws Juan Martín del Potro in the third round. Del Potro's beat him on center court at Wimbledon in the Olympics. So there's a history there. Once again, that was London 2012 Olympics. Once again, it'll be Del Potro and and Djokovic on center court. This should be a really competitive match. I expect this one to go 5 sets. I'll say that right now. But with Djokovic, if Djokovic is able to get through that, now the confidence will be riding even higher. He will have known that he just got through, really one of the bigger threats in the entire draw early in the third round. And I think, winning a hard-fought, high-quality match will be really good for him. It'll probably be Feliciano Lopez in the fourth round. If he's able to return well, that shouldn't be a problem for him. And then in the quarters, it will be probably either Tomas Berdych or Dominic Thiem. I have Berdych, and definitely that's a favorable quarterfinal matchup for Djokovic. So ultimately, a pretty good draw for Djokovic, except the elephant in the room, which is Juan Martín del Potro in the third round. That is a very, very difficult third round matchup. But I think he gets through it, and I think he makes it all the way to the semifinals, where he will meet Roger Federer. So here's how it stacks up, okay? And I'm going to show you guys my entire bracket in a second. But basically, what this means is that I predict Wawrinka, Nadal, and Nadal in the semis, Federer and Djokovic in the semis. Those are the respective matchups. I think Nadal beats Wawrinka once again. I don't love Stan's game on the grass, and if Nadal makes it to the semis, by that time he'll really be comfortable. You know, when you're that deep into Wimbledon, Nadal has often said it's really the beginning that gives him trouble. It's the beginning that's so dangerous. Once he gets through the first week, now you're looking, now Nadal is Nadal. Now he is an elite player to be reckoned with, someone who will not give you anything easy, and someone who will really take who will require an elite performance on the other side of the court to take him down. The other semifinal, Roger Federer and Novak Djokovic. I have Roger Federer. He's given me no reason to pick against him, which is why in the final I have another Nadal-Federer final. That would be awesome. And Federer running through Rafa Nadal. And I'm not sure that one would be close. I don't know. Federer just has so much more to work with on the grass courts than anyone else. So there's no reason to pick against Roger Federer. There is no reason to doubt Roger Federer. He should win Wimbledon. The only way he doesn't, in my opinion, is if he is unable to find the same mindset that he was able to find in Melbourne, Australia, where he was playing the most, and Miami and Indian Wells, where he was playing such free-flowing tennis. Nerves, non-existent. Nerves have been a problem for Federer. When he was struggling in the period from, 2012 to 2017, in that 5-year major title drought, nerves were a major problem for Federer. He was able to completely shed that liability at Melbourne. If he can reestablish the same mindset that he's had so far, if he doesn't revert back to his old self mentally, and by his old self, I mean the Roger Federer that was losing in major semifinals instead of winning major semifinals and major finals. As long as he doesn't revert back to that, I believe he will win Wimbledon. Let me just show you my full bracket so you can pause the video if you're curious about my picks. I'm going to scroll through my full bracket here just to give you guys a quick look. Also, you guys, before I wrap things up, I will not be in New York next week. I will be watching Wimbledon from Florida. I will not have the comfort of my New York studio, but still, I will be bringing you guys content, match analysis, Wimbledon talk, everything I normally deliver during a major. I will be delivering from Florida. The sound quality may not be as good, the video quality may not be as good, but the backdrop will be the beach, and it will be the same analysis, the same discussion that I so enjoy having with you guys. So I'm looking forward to that. Make sure you check the channel throughout the duration of the fortnight. I will be back in New York for the second week, so looking forward to that. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.